Hi, and welcome to another Inspiring Artist Worth Studying. Today we're going to be talking about Darwyn Cooke. Hi, my name is Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 25 years now, and I'm here to empower you. So, Darwyn Cooke. Okay, so here's the thing. So far, in the last couple of videos, I've spoken about Jack Kirby, then Jim Steranko, then Bruce Timm. So, now we're talking about Darwyn Cooke, who worked with Bruce Timm and actually picked up a lot of things from Bruce Timm. But you will also notice that we also I've made a video before of Alex Toth. And you're going to see a lot of Toth stuff in Darwyn Cooke. So let's start talking about Darwyn Cooke and see what his influences are, how he took them and then made them his own and then did his own thing with them. So let's begin with this drawing here of Superman and Batman fighting. So the thing about Darwyn Cooke is that one of the things that he really liked was the 1960s type of comic book art and the 60s as a setting, 40s, 50s, 60s, kind of that era. And you can see here with this drawing, it takes a lot from Kirby with the lines. Some of the lines here are very Kirby-esque. But however, there is also a lot of there's some Bruce Timm stuff here, especially like some of the earlier Bruce Timm stuff where you have these kind of shapes going on, and the simplicity of the characters is a very animated style, a look to the characters. So you've got all these kind of elements working together, which is really, really great. But he's adding his own thing in spite of the fact that some of these things seem a little Kirby-ish. They're not completely Kirby. This is still very much a Darwyn Cooke drawing. He liked to make sure that you saw the wrinkles going into the shirt of Superman and Batman, and you can see that he's adding wrinkles here. These lines represent the wrinkles in the shirts. There is a lot of power and punch in this. Punch. There is it's got a lot of, his arm is completely stretched out. None of these lines are necessarily symmetrical. They're asymmetrical here. You can see that there's a thick line here, but it isn't exactly symmetrical to this. In fact, there's a straight line in here to break up this curve. Look at this. I just noticed it, but there's Batman's got his foot, his leg is over here. He's got his foot on Superman's neck, which is pretty interesting. I hadn't even noticed that was there, but yeah, he's got that going on. And of course, you've got this kind of energy, this kind of explosion. This was very common. Kirby used it a lot, but he used it a little bit different in that he used to leave a larger gap in between the characters and these lines. But let's keep going. Let's take a look at some other stuff. So here we have another Darwyn Cooke drawing, and this is from his Parker books. So I will talk about the Parker books, and I will show you some of them. They are really worth checking out. But what he used to do in these Parker books, they were very, very noir. They were very they're crime books, and he drew them extremely simple. They were black, white, and blue. The blue was just the only color in the book, and it acted as a gray tone. So it broke up the black and white and just added that extra little umph. And he was very graphic. He's really graphic with these, at least in this particular drawing, he's very graphic with the shadows. He's not being pretty or beautiful with it. He's not perfectly making clear, clean, beautiful shapes. The shapes are very deliberate. They are very much going with the anatomy of the character, but it feels very loose and free. And what does that? And that kind of creates this kind of edgy feel to the whole thing. It's not meant to feel clean and beautiful. This is a crime story, and so his drawings. The point is to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable when looking at this, because it's not meant to be a glamorous piece. And if you notice, the thing that really makes it work is these really thick, graphic, very rough looking blacks to this very clean Toth, Alex Toth type thin line all the way around. And that juxtaposition adds a lot of interest. This is actually, speaking of Toth, is kind of Toth-ish. Thin lines versus big, thick, black shadows. What actually makes it not feel as Toth is the roughness of the inking and the tertiary value, the blue, adding an extra value here. Although Toth did use Zipatone, remember we looked at his stuff, and he would sometimes use grays as well, but something about it being blue kind of makes it feel very, very different. Here's I guess a splash page of for Darwyn Cooke art, the art of. This is a New Frontier drawing. I don't know if this was a cover or not, but again, the New Frontier is a comic book that he wrote and drew that is 100% worth looking at. I will talk a little bit about it later, but I could only say so much because I don't own a physical copy. I own a digital copy of it. But here we have the Darwyn Cooke drawing. So here's the thing about Darwyn Cooke. This drawing is kind of half Bruce Timm-esque and half Toth. You can and all Darwin. You know, like all the line quality here is very linear, very clean, very Toth. Some of the shapes here are, for example, here this leg going with the curve, and then the other curve here is very similar, and then this straight line back here with this shape here. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff going on here. That's very kind of a Bruce Timm influenced thing, but again, this is all just but it's put together in such a way that it's very, very Darwyn Cooke. There's wrinkles here in the suits that make it feel like they're wearing cloth and not having a second skin for the suits, which makes it feel very 60s for some reason. It's just especially how high the pants are on Superman. You can tell that Darwyn Cooke really knows what he's doing. He adds these muscle masses here that wrap around, and you can he emphasizes them here. There's a rhythm that comes in here, and we kind of saw that very similar thing with Jack Kirby that he adds these. He there was a one drawing that he adds those muscles here, but here we have the muscles that come in and around. It's a beautiful, beautiful group of drawings and of expressions and not expressions, but of profiles here, of different character designs, different character types. I think perhaps the women having very similar proportions, but and Martian Manhunter with Adam Strange over here, they kind of have very similar proportions, but for the most part, and these guys kind of look a little the same. For the most part, though, he does have different character faces for most of the characters here in this drawing. Okay, so here we have another 3-value Darwyn Cooke drawing. Now this drawing is much more obviously a Bruce Timm gal. She has a Bruce Timm girl body. Not quite a Bruce Timm girl face. Darwyn Cooke tended to draw more fuller or more lines in the noses than Bruce Timm tends to do. But most definitely same kind of boxy hands, which you can argue is either Bruce Timm or just a Kirby hand. So this is a Kirby Bruce Timm-esque hand, very dynamic. But again, this is a 3-value drawing, and I'm kind of looking at this stuff makes me want to do 3-value drawings just to see what they would be like. Just to, instead of using a gray value, you use just a different value. Like before in that previous drawing, he was using blue, and here we have him using orange as his tertiary value. But really, really great, very dynamic drawing. And while it's very influenced by Bruce Timm shapes, the blacks in here aren't 100% Kirby. They're a little bit more Toth. Some of these are a little bit more Toth. And I say that just because there's such a thin line around everything that he draws. He draws these really thin lines and then adds the blacks. And something about the juxtaposition of thin lines with black brings to mind Toth. This is his Catwoman, and these really feel very Alex Toth to me. But he's using like Bruce Timm kind of girl proportions. And this is a very, very Bruce Timm face. This is a very Bruce Timm kind of design aesthetic, but it doesn't look like Bruce Timm drew it. It looks like Darwyn Cooke. So it's the aesthetic that he took and then made it his own. So you can't really say, oh, this looks like this is Bruce Timm. This is Darwyn Cooke. It's his proportions, it's his calligraphy, especially with these blacks, the way that he's using blacks, which just feel to me very, very Alex Toth. Especially like this page feels like one of those Alex Toth animation design pages from that one book. But really fantastic. Look at the way that the shadows and the wrinkles wrap around so that this feels like it's coming toward us. And then this does the same, but away from us, turning away. So these lines here, they emphasize the direction of the forms. This is bending this way to emphasize the direction of this form, and this is coming down that way so that you can tell that it's a little bit bent. Really, really great drawing. Like even this goes around, like you can see, this wraps around, and then this kind of wraps around. So this shows that it's going away from us. Great stuff. Really beautiful, really clean, very simple stuff. This is the really, it's really kind of difficult to do. And I just wanted to point this out. This arm is almost straight versus two curves. This is a very Bruce Timm kind of a thing. Here we have Batman and Robin, and again, this is a 3-value drawing. We have white, black, and yellow, as opposed to blue, and as opposed to orange. Now we have yellow, and this feels very, very Toth to me. It's got that very simple, thin line next to just all these blacks, but this is, here's like a very Kirby / Bruce Timm hand with the boxy fingers on the front. This is like a Batman animated, but not really, because this is a Darwyn Cooke Batman, right? This looks like a Batman animated Robin, but it's a Darwyn Cooke Robin. And Jason Todd tended to usually have these little cowlicks coming down like this, so I'm wondering if this is actually Jason. But really a great drawing, very simple stuff. It really reads. It's not overwrought, it's not overdrawn. One of the things that I like about somebody like Bruce Timm and somebody like Alex Toth and somebody like Darwyn Cooke is that they nail the idea down that you don't need details everywhere to make a drawing work. It is in fact much more difficult to draw simply than to draw complicated. And especially when you want to draw something this simple and then have it be this clear, it's a lot more difficult to do something like this than to just fill it with junk and hide all the cheats. There's nowhere to hide here. You can't cheat. You know that he could draw the end. We have the spirit. So Darwyn Cooke ended up doing a lot of work on a bunch of spirit comics that he wrote and drew. A lot of people wouldn't have ever taken this sort of assignment because he's following somebody like Will Eisner, which I will be talking about at some point. But but this is a Eisner-ism here. Because he's doing the spirit and he's doing something with Eisner stuff, you got to do Eisner stuff. And when we talk about Eisner, we're going to talk about this sort of thing. But Eisner, what he would do is he would create like the title of the comic or the title of the character or whatever it is, the front page, and in it he would write the spirit, but he would write it as part of the composition within the like paper flying through would actually spell out the spirit, or there would just be a giant spirit shape. Essentially this is another example where these letters are falling and they're making the word spirit as he's falling down. And this would probably be a splash page, the first part of a splash page cover. Interior splash page, I should say. The first, you turn the cover over, and this is the first page you'd see, the spirit. Very simple. This is okay. So here we have that notion of simple on the stretch side and complicated on the pinch side. He breaks the rule here. This would be the pinch side, so this would be the complicated side. This should in theory be the simple side, but what he actually does is he adds more complexity on this side, and he doesn't necessarily keep this clean, but it's less complicated on this side. It still works, and in part because all this complexity is what it's actually doing is it's showing you the direction this arm is moving away from us, and then this arm is moving toward us. Here you could actually see the wrinkles coming from the knees wrapping around here this way. Like this breaks the rule of showing us the direction of the folds. But the reason why this works is kind of because he adds more showing us the direction the folds are actually going. So we have this line going here, this line going here, there's a line, there's a slight line coming here. So now we know that this is wrapping around, and then this also here, we're looking underneath it and this wraps around. So these lines here counteract this which goes against it. And because there's more of these than these, it still feels like we're looking up at the leg. So if you want, if you want to do something like this, because in real life, in nature, when you're looking at somebody's wrinkles, they don't always follow the direction. Sometimes they do go in the opposite direction. So a good rule of thumb is to have at least 3 to 4 going in the correct direction, so that maybe 1 or 2 details going against it doesn't break the perspective. And that's what Darwyn Cooke did here. He actually broke the rule, but he broke a rule using a good rule of thumb, right? More details go in the right direction, so that maybe 2 or 3 don't. But yeah, it's extremely dynamic. And Darwin's shapes tend to be very, at least his heroic shapes are very simple. There's like a triangle up here, and then the legs on the bottom tended to flare a little bit and then come back down. But the composition here is great too, because he breaks up the picture plane with, it's not straight. These diagonals break up the picture plane here. His body going this way counteracts that diagonal, and then we have these that are all going in this direction and that direction. This R is pointing to his face. This P is pointing to his face. This line is framing his face with this line. And this line here is part of the framing of this face as well. Really good stuff. Now this looks like an Alex Toth drawing to me as well, and but he's definitely using a little some of the Bruce Timm stuff here with the simplicity of line, but the thin versus the black line, that just feels extremely Toth. This just black, and there's like a little bit of texture here. This whole body shape of Batman here, and within the black, like all of this stuff, it's just very, very Alex Toth. Beautiful design work here, because you've got, if you squint, the highest contrast of this entire thing is right here. All of this is the highest contrast. Your eye goes straight to this black and white kind of contrast. Here's a lost edge. He didn't even draw the arm, but the way that these things are drawn and the way that this black is done, your eye puts the arm in there. This is a way of an artist getting the audience involved. See right here, another part where you just lose the edge, and here's another bit where you lose the edge. You as the audience are now filling in the blanks, and now the audience is involved in finishing up the drawing in their minds, which is really great. This is a very minimalist Robin. If you squint, he's almost lost. He's all just kind of formed just on the black. So these dynamic blacks make sure that this is a very interesting black shape as well. It's broken up in white here to add texture to this shape, but otherwise it's it just makes for an interesting shape. It's not just a black shape. It's got interesting breaks within the shape. Even this, it could have been a very simple triangle, but he broke it. He added a little indentation here, and I think that's part of this, of the building here. Basically explaining that there is depth to this here. This building back here is actually has depth. Here's a page from New Frontier. One of the things that happens in the comic is that you get to see characters who end up in the Lost Land. I don't remember if that's what it's called, but it's like an island full of dinosaurs, and so here we have these characters over here trying to survive from this dinosaur, and it's extremely graphic. So we have this shape here. We have this shape here, which is all black, and here we have the point of highest contrast, black and white, black and white. But here we also have a point of highest contrast here and down here. So our eye tends to go where the contrast is, because we also have here. So there's actually a few points that Darwyn Cooke wants our eyes to go to. This points over here, right? So we've got this guy here, we have this here, we have this here, and we have this guy here. So all of this is happening so that we can take a look. This is what we read. We're reading this. Everything else is secondary, and we're not really meant to, I mean, we're looking at it, but this is not where our eye is supposed to go. Our eye is supposed to go to these spots. Here we have it again, where we have the blackest blacks here, with the blackest blacks here, and this is really dynamic. We've got this shape breaking up this, and part of what makes this interesting is, and this interesting, is the negative space. Like the shape made out of these positive shapes. This is a very interesting shape, and so this is also a very interesting shape, this negative space. And it adds interest to the characters. We have the arm coming in, very dramatic silhouette, and then a close-up. Good stuff. Like it very much reads, and it tells you what is happening. Okay, he reaches over, grabs him. He's gonna let go. Good stuff. Another 3-value drawing, this time with yellow, and it's obviously using marker. Really good stuff. Okay, so this is this drawing just feels very Bruce Timm, Shane lines, on which I'm going to be talking about soon. These shapes here, this shape here of this head, is something that I've seen the Bruce Timm guys, designers, use a lot. This kind of skull shape for the face. So this comes definitely from the Bruce Timm school of male head drawing. This eye is a very Bruce Timm eye. I mean, I actually broke down. This is like Ra's al Ghul eyes. You know, this is how Ra's al Ghul's eyes look like in Batman the Animated Series. So this is a very Bruce Timm kind of face. The great thing here is the way that he puts the yellow and the values here. They all go with the shadows. And again, see, remember what we were talking about with the muscles right here? This muscle that comes in and comes down and wraps around. Well, he started adding value and tone over here. Really good. This is very much a Bruce Timm-ish face, except it's a Darwyn Cooke face because it's got that boxy chin that Darwyn Cooke likes to make on his women. While Bruce Timm probably would have made this very, very pointy. Now that isn't absolute, because there are plenty of characters in the Batman animated series and things like that where they have women with some kind of boxy chin. But for the most part, they tend to have pointy chins. Darwyn Cooke tends to use the boxy chin a lot more. But and these are these are Bruce Timm kind of face proportions. I don't know how often Bruce Timm would have used a nose like this though. Very good stuff though, and there's something about these Three Valley drawings that really just make me want to do these Three Valley drawings. I also like the way that this is framed in black. Like he just frames this in black, and it makes her just pop, right? Like the light is coming in here. You've got in this, and because we've got three values, you can get away with doing, oh, here's the shadow on her face, right? And that's the shadow on his face, and there's a shadow coming here. And that means that the white is really like just this giant spotlight, like really hitting the characters hard, or really hard, harsh light. And it really works really well. Another Three Valley, well, no, I shouldn't even say Three Valley. This is a Two Valley drawing. This is just yellow and white, and the white is in the yellow here is being used as the black. There is a little bit of black. There's a little bit of black right here, and then there's black in the eyelashes here. But in general, here again, we have like a Bruce Timm girl-ish proportions, right? But with that Darwyn Cooke boxing chin, and then these proportions feel very Bruce Timm-esque, very, very simple. C curve straight, right? It's not quite a straight, but it's generally it's a little bit of more of a straight. Here's a C curve, here's a C curve. Again, very, very simple Bruce Timm-esque proportions. We have the Teen Titans Rock It Out. This is just a poster of some drawings that Darwyn Cooke did for DC Comics. Forgot exactly what they were for. But really, really fun, very energetic drawing here. And again, this is a little bit more Toth-ish inspired, while still, of course, being very Darwyn Cooke. With the wrinkles wrapping around the characters, the direction of the wrinkles. I'm not sure exactly what else I can say about this except that I haven't already said. The only thing that I will say is that, like, this line here, these lines in the background, they could have been drawn and to parallel the picture plane, but they weren't. I'm not 100% sure this stage does, but it might. But what this does is it breaks up. Even the speakers don't go straight up and down. They could have gone straight up and down, but what Darwyn did here is he slanted them just slightly so that they feel different than the picture plane. And that's really good drawing, very good composition. Rule of thumb is to attempt to avoid lines within your work that parallel the picture plane. It adds much more interest to your drawing when you do so. More New Frontier drawings. This really does feel like Batman the Animated Series, kind of a Batman, but in a much more 60s style. Not 60s, more like 30s. And yeah, just really, really good stuff. Like, but you can tell that the animation style, the Bruce Timm style influence. Like I said, he worked on the animated series, the DC animated series, the Bruce Timm stuff, and so you can't help but have some of that influence in your work when you probably did it for years and then you started doing comics of your own. That stuff just kind of stays with you and becomes part of you, and then he's still doing his own thing with his own design style, but there is a little bit of Toth in there, and there is a little bit of Bruce Timm in here, and this Superman is extremely Kirby. These are Kirby arms. And they are Kirby arms because look, they're almost symmetrical here. These are very Kirby arms, and with the lines here and stuff, that's what Kirby used to do. A Wonder Woman, New Frontier Wonder Woman, done in 3 values. We got the black, we got the yellow, and then we've got the white. Really dynamic, but these are Bruce Timm-esque proportions, kind of a Bruce Timm-esque face, but again with the square chin. Darwyn Cooke loves those square chins on his women. It's a Darwyn Cooke comic page, and again, very simple stuff. And this is very animated series kind of stuff. And this is the kind of ink language that you see Bruce Timm also use. So this is heavily Bruce Timm-esque influenced. But again, this is not quite Bruce Timm. This is very Darwyn Cooke interpretation of it. So you've got the Darwyn Cooke shapes within this Bruce Timm influenced style of art and drawing. Another Darwyn Cooke comic book page. Here we got a lot of action going on, and you look at this line. This is straight versus C curve here. This is very Bruce Timm. Very Bruce Timm. All of these things, even the way this jacket is done, is a very Bruce Timm jacket. But at the same time, this is Kirby-esque, and it's just there's Kirby in here, there's Bruce Timm in here, there's all Darwin in here. All of these choices are all Darwyn Cooke choices. I mean, look, her face is in this. You know, it's just, this is a Darwyn Cooke face. These are Darwyn Cooke drawings, but you could see the influences that he's wearing and how he puts them together in a very unique, very Darwyn Cooke way. And now we're back to this. So, highly recommend, like the Darwyn Cooke. And I didn't really show everything that he tends to do, but he loves. He like Toth tends to do a lot of these black graphic shapes and things like this. He does a lot of this in a lot of the comics that he does, playing with the blacks and the design of the blacks compared to the values of the whites. That stuff is extremely good to look at. But he also does these really, really, really simple, clear. He could do this. He could do the drawings without any of that black. He can do a 2-value drawing, and the values don't have to necessarily be black or dark. His storytelling is always clear. His drawings are always clear. The emotion of the characters and what they're feeling is always clear. The simplicity of his artwork is really what sells it and really brings it home, so that to create that clarity. So let's talk about some of his books. I'm going to recommend a few things that I happen to have here, but it's not everything. So I'm going to begin with one of my favorites. This is one of my go-to comics when I'm ever drawing any comic, especially with any kind of values, blacks and whites and things like that. Highly recommend this book. It's called it's called Ego, I'm sorry. It was written and drawn by Darwyn Cooke. And the thing that I like about this comic is the way that he composes the pages. And sometimes you get pages like, for example, I look at some of these pages and see. Notice I've got this page marked. The reason is because the shine stopped shining. Look at the way that this page is composed. This is its own page, and then this is its own panel. And then there's like these lines in here, and they connect to the one in the middle. And then these swirly lines in the middle somehow connect to this, these lines here are from this window over here, but it's a figure. So this black is connected. It feels as one shape. And it comes down here. See, notice how this is connected here? But this is a different body over here. This is Batman's body over here. And here's this arm that seems like it's coming from up here, talking to Bruce over here. And this black makes a shape right here, which connects this panel of glass breaking. And this shadow here comes down through here into this panel and is part of this shadow shape with this character here. And this black bleeds into here. And so does this shadow here. It comes in here and it bleeds into this panel here. And it makes a different shape here of a different thing where Bruce is here. And then these lines here are part of this motif here with this area here. And this black here feels like it's part of the black that we've been following all the way throughout. And then we clearly see Bruce's face here. So like this is one of my all-time favorite pages just because of the way that the blacks were designed while it still tells a story. And like, but there's like a lot, like almost everything in this comic is like that. Like it's got like these really great design motifs and the simplicity, and again everything about this, the way that Darwin draws and all, it's very clear, very clean. It tells the story. It's really good. It's good stuff. Like I love this comic. So I'm gonna try to link to it to this in the comments in the description of this video, so you can take a look at it. Pick up a copy of this book. It's genius. It's absolutely worth studying this book. So this is book 2 of the Parker novels by Richard Stark, but Darwyn Cooke illustrated the novels. And it's a direct, it's basically the novels just illustrated, and they're illustrated in comic book stuff. So this is only part 2. I got part 1. I've got the first one somewhere. And but this is where that 3-value drawing comic style comes in. And these are amazing. If you want a study in noir kind of comic storytelling, the simplicity of this thing, like I said, these are 3 values. These are again another brilliant Darwyn Cooke like just visual story. How if you want to see visual storytelling at its best, these books, the Parker books, highly recommended. I'm going to link to these too. But they're if you like crime books, you'll really like this. And if you love Darwyn Cooke and the way he tells stories, and you want to see the 3-value style storytelling and how well it works, I mean, this is fantastic. This is so great. Highly recommend picking up the Darwyn Cooke Parker books. And finally, you got to pick this up if you're a fan of Darwyn Cooke. You have, it's called Graphic Inc., the DC Comics Art of Darwyn Cooke. And apparently in this cover, we have somebody flipping somebody off and nobody even noticed it. Let me see. Oh yeah. So we have Green Arrow over here, and he's flipping off the Green Lantern, which is hilarious. Like, it totally got past the editor. He didn't even notice that he did that. Darwyn Cooke apparently was always trying to get away with stuff like that, and But the best thing about this book is that it basically compiles everything that Darwyn Cooke, well, not everything, but a lot of the Darwyn Cooke stuff that was done, he did for DC. So stuff like this that doesn't look anything like Darwyn Cooke, which is really great. Like this, what this does is it shows you the versatility he had as an artist. So here we have a very, very Bruce Timm, Darwyn Cooke Superman page. And then we've got the Hush cover. And some paint, some more covers. Okay, so this was done for Legion of Superheroes. And this was like a back issue, a backstory of one of the issues. Look at this. It looks like a Darwyn Cooke drawing, but it doesn't look like a Darwyn Cooke drawing because look how simple clean this comic is. It doesn't have the blacks that you're used to seeing him do. It's just very, very simple graphic drawings. So that's it's really great to see that he's got that kind of versatility. Here we have Darwin do it with his Batman Beyond over here, and then here on this side with Atrigan, this is a really Bruce Timm / Jack Kirby Atrigan, and drawing. Look at the shadow shapes here, and look at Batman Beyond's shadow shapes. They're totally Kirby. They're very, very Kirby. And that hand is a very Kirby hand. See, so Darwyn Cooke has got this really versatile kind of look and design, and we've got all these just different styles of. Look at this black and white comic here. So we go really, really super cartoony. Even more cartoony. And I mean, it's just great stuff. Look at this. So all of this stuff, like he's extremely versatile. Look at this. Extremely versatile artist. You would have never guessed that would have been Darwyn Cooke, right? And yet, look, it's totally Darwyn Cooke because of the values, the way that he's using 3 values. It's still his kind of shapes. We have more of the Hush looking, the ego looking stuff. Here's Darwin doing his best imitation of Neil Adams. So yeah, he's trying to do Neil Adams. He's trying to be Neil Adams in this one. Yeah, so there's just too much. There's too much for me to show you. This is interesting because he's trying. Here's Darwyn Cooke trying to be Mobius. It's just too much. There's just too much good stuff in here. So highly recommend. I'll have the link to this book as well. This is well worth your time owning, having, exploring, studying. It's a fantastic book. There will be more. There's more to it. There's the New Frontier comic that is just amazing. It's another thing that's worth picking up. He did a ton of Spirit stuff. He did a ton of Catwoman comics. A lot. Just, I mean, if you become a fan, there's of Darwyn Cooke. There's plenty of Darwyn Cooke work out there. Uh, it's a highly recommended. So just check out the description of this video. I'll have links to the books that I just talked about plus others. And yeah, I hope you I just opened your eyes to yet another artist if you didn't know who he was. And if you did know who he was, hopefully you got a lot out of exploring his work. And thanks a lot, guys, and I'll talk to you next time. All right.